I too would like to acknowledge the traditional custodians of the land on which our celebration of LGBTI ageing is taking place and pay my respects to Aboriginal elders past and present. Again, on behalf of all those attending the conference, I'd like to thank Aunty Di for her kind and generous welcome to country. I'd also like to thank Sharon Knight MP for her kind opening remarks and for representing a Victorian government whose support of LGBTI people is legend. We cannot overestimate the value of this support at a time when the weight and value of LGBTI people and our relationships are to be determined by a non-binding opt-in show of hands. GLHV is part of the Australian Research Centre in Sex, Health and Society, which in turn is part of Trobe University. Imagine this list of organisations as a set of wooden Russian dolls of decreasing size, placed one inside the other. As we open the dolls, starting with the mother of them all, Trobe University, we see in decreasing order of size ARCSHS, GLHV, and at the hidden centre of this cascade of Russian dolls, not Donald Trump, in the warm embrace of Vladimir Putin, but rather Vals and the wonderful Pauline from Mary. Pauline is our puppet mistress, and with the help of Jess, Jen, our conference sponsors and partners, including the members of the steering committee, Pauline has managed to pull together what will be a remarkable two-day celebration of LGBTI ageing and older LGBTI people. So thank you, Pauline and crew. Pauline will be thanking our sponsors and partners, so it falls to me to thank you, the conference delegates, and the older LGBTI people who are attending, presenting, and leading the discussions about your lives and service needs. I'd also like to thank our remarkable host of plenary speakers, a motley crew drawn together by their deep commitment to equity, justice and inclusion. By first name and in no particular order, thank you to Karen, Dennis, Jax, Anne, Gillian, Bob, Brenda, Ro, Noel, Sharon and finally Catherine, who is the founder of VALS and continues to be a powerful advocate for the rights of older LGBTI people. 2017 marks the 50th anniversary of the founding of Trobe University and coincidentally the 25th anniversary of the establishment of the Australian Research Centre in Sex, Health and Society. Over the past 12 months, ARCSHS has been hosting a distinguished lecture series to celebrate this dual anniversary. The lecture series has provided a critical space to reflect on the history of Trobe University and how that history embodies the principles of equity and social justice on which the university was founded. It also provides an opportunity to reflect on the development of ARCSHS as a key national and international research centre on sex, gender, sexuality and health, and in particular on LGBTI health and wellbeing. The history of Trobe over the past 50 years and ARCSHS over the past 25 are part of the broader historical arc that traces dramatic changes in the lives of LGBTI people in Australia and how we have been framed within legal, medical, religious and social discourse. 50 years ago, when Trobe University was founded, it was still illegal for men to have intimate sexual relations with other men. You were a criminal, ill or immoral. Same-sex attracted men and women could be jailed simply for having sex. They could be jailed for simply being who they were. They could be involuntarily committed for medical treatments, including electroshock therapy and in some cases partial lobotomies. Or some voluntarily underwent gay conversion therapies to turn themselves straight, or at the very least to stop them acting out their same-sex sexual desires. Married women who came out as lesbian could be denied access to their children and find themselves separated from family, friends and communities. The options in 1960s Australia were limited: be out and proud and subject to the full force of the law and public ridicule, or hide your true self away to pass as heterosexual and cisgender, to live an inauthentic life simply in order to survive. 25 years ago, when ARCSHS, the Australian Research Centre in Sex, Health and Society, was founded at Trobe, sex between men was still illegal in Tasmania. There were no federal legal protections against biphobic, transphobic or homophobic discrimination, and the rights of people with intersex variations were not recognised in law. LGBTI were only included in policies and programs as a problem to be dealt with, never as a difference to be valued, affirmed and nurtured. Out LGB people were no longer categorised as mentally ill or illegal immigrants in a heteronormative world. However, the best we could hope for was to be tolerated, to keep our heads down, and be grateful that we were no longer being locked up, beaten up or drugged up. Fast forward to the Novotel on Collins, the 5th of October 2017. In Victoria, we have a Sexuality and Gender Commissioner, Ro Allen, who is travelling the state singing the virtues of being LGBTI. We have financial commitment from the Victorian Government to build Australia's first Pride Centre on Fitzroy Street in St Kilda, so that every year the Pride March will carry us past our Pride Centre, a physical reminder that tolerance and acceptance are never enough. We have over 120 queer sporting clubs, programs promoting LGBTI inclusion in a number of public and private organisations, and the CEOs of companies like Qantas demanding the full and symbolic recognition of the sanctity and inherent value of our loving, intimate relationships. We have the inclusion of LGBTI people as a special needs group in the Commonwealth Aged Care Act, and increasing interest on the part of home-based and residential aged care services in gaining rainbow tick accreditation. A range of public policies and programs are beginning to address how other identities intersect with, complicate and amplify what it means to be LGBTI today, including Aboriginal LGBTI people of different cultures and faiths, LGBTI people with disabilities, older LGBTI and more. The LGBTI histories we all share and the inclusive policies and programs and services that have been developed, from safe schools to Mind Out to Q Life, aged care reform and the rainbow tick, are the oxygen that allow us to breathe deeply. When I and my ageing cohort were young, we were starved of support and affirmation. We were starved of oxygen, gasping for air, always one step away from suffocating because of deeply ingrained prejudice and discrimination. But that histories, those policies and programs that value and affirm LGBTI people are not things we can take for granted. While some Australian governments and many public institutions are moving toward equality, diversity and inclusion, we have witnessed contrary moves in Australian public debate in the past 18 months. A small but vocal minority are calling for a rollback in human rights and anti-discrimination provisions, for greater freedoms to insult or ridicule people who do not fit their view of what is normal. We see people using the marriage debate as a way of once again putting LGBTI people on public trial, of judging LGBTI people's basic humanity to see whether or not we are worthy. These people are nostalgic for a past where LGBTI people were deprived of oxygen, where being different places you under suspicion, and where many of us are made to feel lesser human beings simply because we do not fit someone else's fixed view of how the world should be. If nothing else, this conference is all about time, all about history. It's about the magnificent and often difficult lives of older LGBTI people, of how their histories are not distant memories or historical curiosities to be taken out of the closet and looked at away from prying eyes. Our older LGBTI people have lived their histories as a deeply embodied part of who they are today, now, in the present we all inhabit. We all share these histories as the hard-won ground on which our taken-for-granted rights and freedoms as LGBTI people depend. And it is to these histories and to our LGBTI elders that we turn our collective gaze over the next 3 days. I want to include the coming out ball in that. I hope that as we celebrate LGBTI ageing and the lives of older LGBTI people, we can all breathe deeply. Thank you. And now it is my great pleasure to introduce our conference puppet mistress, Pauline Cremeri.